Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the playoffs for the Oregon High School Football Officials Clips of the Week training video brought to you by the OSAA. As always, all of the clips and rulings are from Oregon SRI Kevin Hatfield. We're not looking to embarrass or call out any individual official, association, player, school, or coach. We're working towards our goal of one rule, one mechanic, and one interpretation. With that said, let's get to this week's Clips of the Week. The first two clips we're going to look at this week involved free kicks. And in this first one, it's important to understand the importance of watching film in preparation for your game. As we talked about last week, we do definitely encourage officials who are working the wings to work deeper than the kicker can kick. Oftentimes that might mean lining up at the goal line or the 5-yard line. Now in this case, the crew working this game noticed that the team that's about to kick oftentimes squibbed it, and our head linesman is going to be starting around the 20, which is good position for this squib kick that we're about to see. And it's not the greatest film in the world, but we're going to notice that the ball goes out of bounds and the head linesman marks this. And we'll watch this again. Again, it's not the greatest film. I will tell you that the ruling on the field is that no member of the return team touched the ball. It was touched by K in the field of play. And we're going to notice here that the head linesman drops a beanbag. Normally that's what we would do for first touching, but as a reminder on a free kick, we don't have first touching once the ball has gone more than 10 yards and has been grounded. What we'd rather see here is simply just to put the flag down at the spot the ball went out of bounds if you did not have touching by R. The fact that this ball was touched by K does not change the fact that this is a kickoff out of bounds. Now the crew did enforce 5 yards from the spot where the kick went out of bounds, so they got this correct. Just a reminder that this should be a penalty flag and not a beanbag. So the next play we're going to look at is an instance in which we're going to get a pop-up kick. And this was something that we focused on many years ago, but rarely ever see, but we need to be prepared for it. The back judge is primary on a pop-up kick, while the center judge or umpire would be secondary. And just a reminder that a pop-up kick is when a free kick is driven into, the ball is driven into the ground immediately, and the ball strikes the ground once and then goes into the air in the manner of a ball kicked directly off the tee. And in the past, our rule of thumb was that if the ball went above the heads of the front line of the kicking team, then we had a pop-up kick. And that's what we are going to see here. The ball is kicked directly into the ground. It bounces once, and it goes over the head of the front line of the kicking team. This should have been blown dead immediately. This is a dangerous play. The back judge, again, is primary, although our umpire or center judge should definitely be able to kill this and prevent anyone from trying to recover or break up the recovery. So just a reminder to be prepared for anything on our free kicks. So this next play was sent in a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of debate around this play and what the correct ruling is on a play like this. Now, in this game, this happened to be the last play of the second quarter. So the result of the play was simply that we went to halftime. However, if this happened at some other point in the game, this clip provides a lot of interesting things to review. So what we're going to notice here is that we're going to get a blocked field goal, and the ball goes beyond the line of scrimmage, and it's ultimately recovered by a member of the kicking team. And we can see that a little bit more clearly here from the end zone view. So let's imagine for a second this week end of the second quarter and that we were going to halftime. What should the result of the play be? Well, first thing we want to talk about is that a field goal is a scrimmage kick. So it's a punt that can score. So we have normal scrimmage kick rules. When we have a scrimmage kick, we have an expanded neutral zone, which allows us to expand the neutral zone up to 2 yards into the defensive backfield, which allows for normal line play. And if there is a low scrimmage kick touching by either team in that expanded neutral zone, in this case from the 24 to the 22, is ignored. So if we look at this, when the ball first is touched by a member of the defense, it's touched at the 23-yard line within that expanded neutral zone. So we would think that this touching is ignored. However, this is not considered a low scrimmage kick. It is blocked, but we can see that the apex of this ball is well above the reach of the players that are in that expanded neutral zone. And if you look at your rule book, actually your case book, and go to 626, it will describe why the result of this play should be the kicking team's ball. So the zone, the expanded neutral zone, will disintegrate immediately when the kick has crossed the expanded zone, or when the trajectory is such that it cannot be touched until it comes down. Once the zone disintegrates, touching of the kick by K in flight beyond the neutral zone is kick catching interference, if there's a member of the defense or the return team in position to catch the ball. If, however, the ball is touched by the return team beyond the neutral zone, it establishes a new series. So because the flight of this ball means it can only be touched because it's coming down, even though this touching is in the expanded neutral zone, it is not ignored, and the result of the play is the kicking team recovering the ball. So again, if this were not the last play of the second quarter, this would result in 1st and 10 for the kicking team where they recovered. So as we move through the playoffs, it's probably very likely during our pregame meetings when we're talking about calling fouls that we want to make them big. In other words, we want to call the big stuff and the things that have the most impact on the game. So let's watch this scrimmage kick. And we're going to want to pay attention to the action by 2 players at the bottom of the screen. We're going to get a long return here by the return team, but we have these players down near midfield. And there is some contact down here. And we get a flag by the line judge. And the runner is some 30 yards downfield. This is probably 40 yards away from the play as the crow flies. This is something that we would support passing on unless these players were involved in action earlier in the game and they've already been warned. But this certainly did not have any impact on the play. And while unnecessary, it's not going to rise to the level of an unnecessary roughness foul unless, again, that player for the team in white had been causing problems and had already been warned. But on this play here, we're going to wipe away a punt return for a touchdown. And again, we'd encourage that you simply talk to these players and pass on this unless, of course, again, you've already warned them probably more than once. So a couple of weeks ago, we looked at a play in which a placeholder on a kick tossed the ball to their teammate that was trying to score on a try. And we talked about how that play should have been blown dead because the placeholder had their knee on the ground and they did not rise up before flipping the ball. Then last week, we talked about the importance of coaches being honest with us in pre-games and talking through any trick plays that they might have. So let's mesh those 2 plays together into this one. And while you can't tell from this angle, and unfortunately we don't have an end zone angle, we're going to have a similar play here where the placeholder tosses the ball to the kicker. Now, the try is no good, but I spoke to the referee and they said that during the pregame, the coach explained that they had this in their arsenal for the evening, And in doing so, they verified that the placeholder was going to have their knee off the ground. And the referee says that they did, and that he had been looking for it all night on every try. So, excellent job by the crew. Thank you to the coaching staff for being upfront and honest with us. Now, one last thing to point out on this play. Because the placeholder's knee is not on the ground, this is not a scrimmage kick formation. So, no numbering exception can legally apply here. So, it's impossible for us to tell from the film, but because of the fact that this is not a scrimmage kick formation, the kicking team must have 5 players, 50 through 79, on the line of scrimmage in order for this to be a legal formation. So on this play, I'm not sure what down it is, but it looks like there's maybe a yard to go before the possible score here. And we've got a very tight formation. So let's talk a little bit about pre-snap mechanics. Our center judge is way too close to the line of scrimmage here at only 9 yards. Our mechanics manual does say to work at least 10 to 12 yards. I can understand maybe why they want to be that close, but you're definitely potentially in harm's way. And if you work with more depth, you're going to be able to have a wider frame of vision, which may have helped on this play. Also, we have the strength of the formation to the offensive left-hand side. Our back judge is shaded to the offensive right. We'd suggest being over on the other side of the offense here so you can get a better viewpoint at the strength of the formation. Now, we can't see our head linesman on this play, but their key would be the end player on the line of scrimmage to read, pass, or run. And they're also going to be responsible for looking at blocks in front of the runner. So with all of that said, let's take a look at this play and look at the action by the right defensive end. So if we watch that in slow motion, we're going to be able to see that the defensive end cuts the lead blocker. This is an illegal block below the waist by the defense. Now, had our center judge been deeper, they're of course keen on the left tackle, left guard, and center. They may have been able to pick this up with a wider frame of view. Our head linesman should have absolutely picked this up as well. And had our back judge slid a little bit over to their right, they may have had some help on this. But this is a dangerous play. This is a foul that we definitely want to get picked up, and unfortunately, we missed. Now, in this play, the crew is working with 7 officials, which certainly makes life easier for the wings who are responsible for holding the line of scrimmage on a pass play. Again, they're going to be primary for ineligibles downfield. They're also primary on whether or not the quarterback is behind or beyond the line of scrimmage when they throw a pass. So let's keep that in mind as we watch this. And here it's pretty easy to see that the line of scrimmage is the big line. It's the 30. And we don't get a flag on this play. But if we go back and watch this again, we'll go ahead and pause it where the quarterback releases the ball. So if we pause it here, we'll notice that the quarterback is releasing the ball with one foot on the 30 and another foot in advance of it. And just a reminder that a legal forward pass is when a player on offense throws the ball with both feet of the passer in or behind the neutral zone when the ball is released. So we should have had a flag here for a foul for an illegal forward pass. But again, with 7 officials, this made our job easier as wings to hold that line. But just bear in mind that both feet must be in or behind the neutral zone when that ball is released. And unfortunately, that did not happen on this play. So we're going to take a look at another free kick, and this is more about penalty enforcement. Again, this crew is working with 7 officials, and that's the reason why the referee is in the end zone. We'll see that both wings are on the pylon. Normally, we'd recommend that the referee would never be in the end zone, although with 7 officials, if you're going to be in the end zone, we need to make sure, as in this case, that the wings are on the goal line at the pylon so they can help rule on whether we have a touchback. But we're going to notice here that we're going to get a flag for an illegal block below the waist right around the 32-yard line. And this is an excellent call. Now, it's impossible, probably, for us to know whether or not this happened before or after the touchback. But that's important for penalty enforcement here. And this is why it would be important to have a whistle to help us understand when the foul occurred, because we need to know that on kicks. Now, ultimately, this crew ruled that the block came after the touchback. So this would be a dead ball penalty and would be enforced from the succeeding spot, so from the 20 to the 10. If the crew had gotten together and determined that they ruled this foul to occur prior to the touchback, we don't have PSK. We talked about that a few episodes ago, that we don't have PSK on kickoffs. PSK, remember, is post-scrimmage kick enforcement. So this would have been a foul during a loose ball play, and we'd enforce from the previous spot and re-kick. But good communication by this crew to determine that they felt the foul occurred after the touchback and thus enforce this correctly. Our last clip is going to look at a potential intentional grounding call. And again, this is from the same crew that's working 7 officials. And a couple of weeks ago, we had an episode in which we discussed some leniency for the quarterback when they're being contacted. And we had some questions on that. And we're not saying all contact would prevent intentional grounding. It's just that the referee or the center judge, whoever is primary for that call, take into account the contact on the passer. Now, before we play this clip, let's look at pre-snap positioning and mechanics. So with the ball being snapped between the 6 and the 10, even though we're working with 7 officials here, we're going to ask the wide side official in the offensive backfield, in this case the center judge, to be primary on the goal line. And they're going to do a good job here with their positioning pre-snap, and then they're going to do a good job after the play getting towards the goal line to help rule on this play. So excellent job by this crew up until this point. But now let's watch the pass. And we're going to notice that the passer never leaves the free blocking zone. And so it doesn't matter whether or not this pass gets to the line of scrimmage or beyond, there has to be an eligible receiver in the area. And we don't get that on this play. So I spoke to the referee on this game, and they had their concentration and focus on the quarterback to make sure that they were okay. We talk a lot in our pre-games that intentional grounding is the referee's flag, but it's a crew call. This is a situation in which the wing official or the deep wing officials or even the back judge can let the referee know that there was no eligible player in the area. The center judge would then have been able to help the referee understand where the pass was released. And it looks here like the passer was just outside the end zone, so we probably would have enforced from inside the 1, but not a safety. But again, just the importance of crew communication, because the referee can't view all of this. Their responsibility is the protection of the quarterback. This would have been a good play for our other officials to come in and give information to the referee. Well, that's it for this week's Clips of the Week. We will be back with just one more episode. Good luck to all of the officials, players, and schools that are moving on into the playoffs this week. We hope that you have a great game, and we'll talk to you next week.